What's up everybody, Nola Deach here, and I'm coming to you from the streets of New Orleans, more specifically the French Quarter, and I'm here to see if I can find the actual house of the rising sun. There are several places that people seem to think are the location, so we're going to track those down. We're going to see what we can find and find the actual place. So come along with me. The song House of the Rising Sun was popularized in 1964 by the band The Animals and was supposedly about a brothel in New Orleans. However, it started off as an old folk song, possibly dating back to the 1600s. The oldest published version of the lyrics, which are pretty different from what The Animals recorded, is 1925, and those lyrics start with, "There is a house in New Orleans, it's called the Rising Sun, it's been the ruin of many a poor girl, great God, and I for one." It's also said to have been known and sung by miners while they were working as far back as 1905. The oldest known recording of the song as Rising Sun Blues by Clarence Tom Ashley was back in 1933.
They are a house in New Orleans. They call the rising sun, where many poor boys to destruction has gone, and me, oh God, for one.
Since then, it has been recorded many times in various forms with slight changes to the lyrics. Many people think when the song formed into Rising Sun Blues, it was based on a real place in New Orleans. And most think it was a brothel somewhere in the French Quarter. Look at these interesting butterflies painted on the ground here. Right here in the French Market. How cool is that? They're all over the place. Look at this. Not entirely sure the meaning behind them, but that is cool. The French Market up and running. Looks much busier than it was the first time I came out here since they've reopened. How cool is this? A lot of business happening, a lot of stuff going on. People are wearing their masks. Love seeing this, I really do. And here we are on Ursuline's, and right down there is a location that is possibly the House of the Rising Sun. This is the Hotel Villa Convento. Built around 1833, this old Creole townhouse is one of the rumored places to be the House of the Rising Sun. The land this sits on originally belonged to the Ursuline nuns, which arrived here in the French colonization period. They sold this plot of land and it changed hands a few times until it was purchased by Jean-Baptiste Poifer, who built this townhouse in 1833. He died 10 years later and it was sold to Octave Voorhees, no relation to Jason Voorhees. He ended up selling it off sometime after the Civil War, and it is thought that Union troops remained in and around New Orleans after the war, and this was also a time when wealth had gone down. The area had become more of a destination for things like drinking and prostitution and other things, and it was during this time that some believe this became the brothel, the famous House of the Rising Sun. There's no definitive records that it was, but there are stories and personal accounts that have been passed down and some sort of records that something was going on here that showed this could have been a brothel during that time. The property eventually was sold again a few times until 1902 when Pascal Taormina bought it. His family lived there until 1946. It was sold yet again until someone ended up buying it and calling it Old Town Villa and turned it into a hotel. And at some point, Jimmy Buffett even stayed here in room 305, and that room is now known as the Jimmy Buffett room. And in 1981, it was sold to the Campo family, who still own it, this haunted old building today, the Villa Convento. And the first thing that I noticed walking into this really gorgeous but small lobby, this skeleton sitting here playing the piano. Looks like he's playing us a nice little song. And he's even got his mask on. We got this bird skeleton on top of the piano, but check this out. We got these old boxes here. These are for a player piano, all the different songs and everything that would fit into a player piano and play the song. That's really pretty cool. And of course, honoring the fact that they could be the actual House of the Rising Sun, they have a t-shirt that you can buy stating that they are the House of the Rising Sun. It's a really beautiful lobby with all this intricate woodwork. This clock on the wall with the big numbers looks like a giant clock pie. Of course, I can't walk down Ursuline and not point out the old Ursuline Convent. It's one of the oldest buildings in New Orleans and probably the entire area. Of course, the first building was erected back in 1734. So this dates back to a very, very long time ago. The old Ursuline Convent. Check it out. And that's the beauty of this city. It's very unique. There's a lot of history here. That's why I love walking around in the French Quarter, specifically because there's so much history just here in this spot. It's pretty cool. So I make my way up to the French market that is open for business. A lot of people going in and out. Thankfully, most are wearing their masks. Check out all the places. Everything seems to be opening back up for business. There are a few exceptions, of course, but business is starting to come back quite a bit here in New Orleans. And here it is, one of the other possible locations for the House of the Rising Sun. 1129 Decatur Street, formerly known as Record Ron's. And he would advertise his record store and use the tagline, "Tell me I sent you." Ron Edelstein came to New Orleans from New York, and he never looked back. He fell in love with the city and he stayed. Ron was very connected to the music business as he had met a lot of people in the industry and worked in it himself for a while. In 1969, he opened up a head shop in New Orleans, and he loved music. He loved collecting records. He would buy, sell, and trade until his personal collection grew and grew. So he opened his record store because his collection was taking up way too much room at his home. And this is it, 1129 Decatur Street. Although the address isn't on the building, but it is right next to 1131. And now it's going to be an art gallery. He was told by someone that this building was the actual site of the House of the Rising Sun. And of course he would tell people this, but he never could get any solid information to back it up. And he died at age 52 in 1996. This is the site of the Rising Sun Hotel. However, its life as the Rising Sun Hotel was very short-lived compared to the history of this spot. This was the location for many boarding houses and hotels throughout the 18th and 19th centuries. An archaeological dig was conducted here back in 2005, and some interesting things were found. Some of these artifacts are on display at the New Orleans Historical Collection Museum, and what's really interesting is that pieces of Native American pottery were found, which predates the French settlement here. In the 1730s, the Mandeville family owned the property and used it as a garden. Sometime between 1760 and 1790, a house was built and ownership changed hands a few times. And in 1794, a fire destroyed all of the structures on the property, so a new structure was built. An Irish immigrant named Madame Margaret Clark Chabot bought it and ran it as a boarding house for 28 years. In 1821, the property was purchased by L.S. Hodges and Company, and an advertisement was put in the Louisiana Gazette for a Rising Sun Hotel on Conti Street. The ad stated it would maintain the best entertainment which this house has enjoyed for 20 years past. It also said, "Gentlemen may here rely upon finding attentive servants." In 1822, however, the Rising Sun Hotel burned to the ground, and a new brick building replaced it and became the Richardson Hotel, then the Conti Hotel, then the Veranda Hotel, and it would eventually fall to another fire sometime in the late 1800s. I always enjoy walking through the quarter, especially on a beautiful day like today. Look at that sky, my goodness. Not a cloud in the sky. It's a little cool out, not too hot, not too cold. There are quite a few people that seem to think that this is the actual location for the House of the Rising Sun. In 1862, Union soldiers occupied New Orleans, and businesses were cropping up to meet the needs of these men, and that included brothels. Madame Marianne Le Soleil Levant opened up her brothel and ran it until 1874. The interesting thing about this particular madam is that when you translate her French name into English, it literally means the rising sun. And this is why so many people think that this is what the song refers to. The majority think that this is the location, but there is a theory that her brothel was actually located here at 1614 Esplanade Avenue, but the likelihood of the brothel being located here is slim because it's outside of the French Quarter, and it would have made more sense that she'd operate the brothel in the quarter here at this spot. There were some renovations done to the building in which the ceiling mural was found depicting a rising sun surrounded by 3 cherubs, and some old risque postcards were found from the 1800s. So whether or not the song, after it evolved from the original folk song into the blues song, is actually based on a real place will probably always be debated. But it is certainly interesting to try and track down what may have influenced the author or authors of the song. New Orleans is a place full of mystery and history, and that's why I love it so much. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed a little lagniappe from this Who Dat. Go pass a good time.